Welcome back to Ultra Life Today. I am Josh Bellew.
I'm Adam Payne.
You know, Adam, when we
What?
go to break sometimes, we have the most lively discussions, and I'm thinking...
You mean the stuff that goes between the segments?
Exactly.
The interstitial conversation.
Right, there you go. Another new word today, word of the day, interstitial. So anyway, we went out on the last segment, and by the way, I want to make sure you all know how to get a hold of Dr. Deanna Windham. Get a hold of. How oaky can you be? You know, wholehumanlife.com, W-H-O-L-E, humanlife.com. In this segment, I want us to move back into, you were just starting to talk about such things as organic acid tests and diagnostic testing.
Yeah.
And I feel
we're picking up a conversation. People are joining us, and it's been a week since we're continuing this discussion. And we were talking about all the different tests that you have available to help bring to bear information that can help you come up with a treatment plan for people.
Yeah, and there's a mystery about these tests, Adam, because we're all used to going to the big names out there to get our blood drawn. So we're going to move back into what you were talking about. And then a doctor will have these routine panel of tests that they do. And then you meet people like Dr. Windham, and she's like, oh, you mean they didn't order a reverse T3 for your thyroid and this and that? And I'm like, it's like, then you talk to your conventional doctor and they have no idea about these tests. So help us with some understanding. You were mentioning something that intrigued me. It's like you draw blood from someone and now you have what you call dead blood. Where were you going with that? Because I also want you to give some practical information by helping people understand that some of these tests can be covered by insurance. Some they are going to pay for out of pocket, but what they will learn may actually be the key to the beginning of them getting well, right? So talk to us about that mystery of dead blood and stuff, and tell us about some tests.
Well, it's really so intriguing because almost every person I have ever seen that has been really sick, whether they knew what it was or not, and lots of times they don't know what it is, they come to me and say, my doctor says my labs are normal, but I feel horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And,
wow.
You've
opened up such a can of worms. Keep going.
Right. And the problem is that we're not just that we're testing dead blood, which I will get back to.
Okay.
But just the fact that, like I said, as an integrative doctor, I say I have more tools in my tool belt. There are many more scientifically validated tests to look at what we call SNPs, ways that our genetics are misfunctioning, if you will, or to look at environmental toxicities, or to look at chronic infections, or to look at organic acids.
Wow.
I often say that if you were a car, your organic acids would be your emissions. So this is what's coming from your live cells, what they're eliminating.
That's beautiful.
And from what your live cells are eliminating, we can tell what they're doing and what they're struggling with. So, and these are scientifically validated tests. I know I keep saying that, but it's so important because I have people that will go back to their doctor and will say, well, Dr. Windham, my doctor says that this free T3, they don't even know what it is. Why is it important? It's not important for my thyroid. Or this organic acid test, they've never heard of it. And so it's not important. And just because a doctor doesn't know something doesn't mean it's not important.
Right.
And that's true for me too.
Wow.
I learn something new almost every day from something a patient has taught me.
Oh, interesting.
And that's not because they went to medical school.
Right.
And I don't have to take that as, some sort meaning that I'm not good enough as a doctor. It means that there is a world of information out there. And there's no single brain that can hold it all.
We're all pieces of the puzzle, right?
Right.
Wow.
And we all have things that we can learn
sometimes
from
the
each other.
patient's gone through such a journey and they've finally come to a realization, or revelation is probably a better term, of something that's going on with their body, either a food or an environmental factor or some inherited trait that is contributing to the presentation of some sort of symptom. And sometimes those are revelations, because you go, wow, I had no idea that this could contribute to this being a concurrent issue. Fibromyalgia, just as a big catch-all for a syndrome that was been going on in people's lives. I remember a decade ago when I was working heavily in autoimmune diseases, the community of doctors was most of them were considering fibromyalgia to be a form of depression. Right. Had nothing to do with any kind of immunology occurrence going on. And they were treating people with antidepressants. Yep. Yep. And completely ignoring, essentially saying that this is a psychiatric issue, not an immune cell functional issue.
My doctor in college actually diagnosed me with fibromyalgia and walked me up to the psychiatry department.
You're kidding me.
I am not joking. I was crying because he told me that I'm clearly depressed and overworked. I was a single mom. I was going to college. I was going to college full-time and had a job and had a daughter. And he said I was depressed and I didn't want to go to the psychiatry department. So he walked me there himself.
Wow.
To put me on antidepressants. And as soon as he left me there, I also left because it did not feel right to me.
Right. I remember I was working with a research lab that was studying fibromyalgia, and they took out the cerebral spinal fluid of people with fibromyalgia, and it was there that they saw elevated cytokines. And I remember there was a patient that was pointing at the report that was coming out of the lab saying, "Look, I told you I had something going on. You wouldn't believe me that this was real. Look, these are elevated. Look." Yeah. And just with such fury and passion, pointing out that they were really experiencing something. It wasn't a psychiatric issue. It was an immune issue with elevated cytokines in the cerebral spinal fluid.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's so frustrating and disempowering to know that there's something wrong, to feel that there's something wrong inside your body, and for somebody to be telling you that because they can't see it with their limited tests that it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, yeah.
Boy.
Wow.
That's it. That is something that a lot more and more people are experiencing. And even in real things, real things that Western medicine doctors will recognize, sure. Like cancer. Mm-hmm. I just spoke to a patient yesterday that has cancer, and he's dealing with some abdominal issues that the doctors say have nothing to do with his cancer, but those symptoms are more bothersome than the cancer symptoms for him.
Incredible.
And he has actually very classic symptoms of something we call SIBO, S-I-B-O, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Mm. And it's actually, he's classic. He could have written the book on SIBO with his symptoms, but his doctors are missing it.
Did you help him figure out how to make yogurt at home? I'm kidding. We'll talk about that another time.
Yes.
Because I know you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Okay. But so you have these mysteries that you solve. You use these tools that are diagnostic tools. You mentioned, and if this is a weird departure, you guys take me away from this, but I'm hearing so much these days, and then you brought it up to me about doing tests related to stool samples and things like that, and how that may be one of the things that you routinely say, this is one of the, now correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering this wrong, that you routinely with maybe a lot of your people say, this is one of the first tests we do. Why do you do that? What is that test, and what do you learn from it?
It's one of my top 3.
Okay, and that's what I was hoping, your top 3 here for our viewers to go, okay, well, if anything at all, I probably need to go do this.
So in my opinion, the microbiome in our gut is kind of one of the foundations of our health, right?
Absolutely.
Right? And so you have to start there. Because if the microbiome's out of balance, everything's out of balance.
Yeah, so people don't understand the importance of the microbiome. A lot of people have heard about it. We know there's lots of gut bacteria. A lot of people have heard that the genetics of the microbiome outnumber our human genetics by 10 to 1.
Yep.
But what does that really mean? And there are some really important impacts of that. So one, our human genetics get exchanged with microbiome genetics.
That's crazy.
So if you think about that, this is one brilliant way that humans are capable of adjusting to our environment. Because with one meal, your microbiome starts to adjust. And as your microbiome adjusts, your human genetics can adjust. That's the power of the microbiome. And then the microbiome has its fingers in everything, I always say.
Oh,
your immune system, 80% of your immune system is in your gut, where your microbiome is. Your hormones, 20% of your hormones are made in your gut, and the rest of your hormones get exchanged through your gut.
Oh, interesting.
Up to 80% of your neurotransmitters that your brain uses to function are made in your gut.
Oh, wow.
And the mitochondria, which are the so-called powerhouse of the cell, it's what makes energy for your body to function. The mitochondrial energy is in part regulated by the microbiome. And not to mention the genetic aspect.
With a couple of minutes left here, I want to go back to this because I've heard so many interesting things lately from different integrative practitioners about stool samples and what they learn and why they do those. But what do you learn when someone actually goes and does this test that you're talking about? And how's it interpreted? And what do you learn that sets you on a course of treatment?
Yeah, big fun with the microbiome. So we learn the families. We know that there are basic families of the microbiome, and we know where they should be as far as in relation to each other.
This is great information.
And so we get to know, how are those families? Are there some that are overgrown, some that are undergrown, some like subfamilies that are just absolutely missing? We can't even find them. They're gone. I have a patient with MS, and her microbiome is decimated.
Wow.
Just decimated. I had her run the test twice because I just thought it couldn't be right, but it was.
Oh, wow. So there's a huge benefit for her to recover and restore a good biome.
Right, exactly. So we learn that. We learn if there's inflammation specific to the gut.
Wow.
We learn if the metabolics, how the cells in the gut are working. Is that going right? Is there likely to be an imbalance caused by infections or caused by toxicity? We can see this from looking at the microbiome.
Beautiful.
Wow. My mind is just going in about a bazillion directions.
It's a foundation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, having the microbiome in balance.
So this is, and I'm going to put you on a quick spot with 45 seconds left in this, but the importance you described of the microbiome and what you can learn from a stool sample, when you started saying, we can see this is gone, this, obviously you have some tools to be able to begin to balance those things as well for individuals. But how much of a percentage of a person's overall health how much importance do you put on this test that you just mentioned? You said top 3.
Right. But if I was going to pick one test that I could only do for the rest of my life, it would be looking at the microbiome.
Okay, that's what I wanted people to hear, because I got that from a previous conversation with you. This is Ultra Life today. You've been listening to Adam Payne. You've been listening to Dr. Deanna Windham. You can get a hold of her through wholehumanlife.com. That's WHOLE, humanlife.com. There's an 800 number as well, 888-338-3408. Again, I'm Josh Bellew.
I'm Adam Payne, and this is Ultra Life Today. Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Welcome back to Ultra Life today with our special guest, Dr. Deanna Windham. I always want to call you Dr. Deanna Wisdom. I did this on the first one, and the more I know you, to me it seems so very appropriate. But I am Josh Bellew.
I'm Adam Payne. We've been having a dynamic discussion about different tests that you would do. to help guide your approach to a patient. So we talked about the microbiome test. And there are the obvious interventions are correcting that microbiome or doing things that could help with prebiotics, probiotics, et cetera. What are the other two tests that are kind of your foundation?
So the second test that I would call foundational would be an organic acid test.
So what is that? Help us understand.
This is great because I don't know, Adam.
Yeah, and this is one that I would say I didn't use for a long time in my career. I've used it for maybe the last few years, actually. So it's become foundational as I've learned about it. But that's the one looking at live cells, and what they're basically discarding, what they're getting rid of, which is the organic acid, which we can test in urine. So it's a simple urine test.
Awesome.
Which is also nice.
Awesome. Yeah. No sticky, sticky in my arm. That's
right.
Great.
And you don't have to collect stool, which nobody likes, but most of my patients are willing to do.
Sure.
Because it gives us so much information. And then
this is great.
The third, and the organic acid test is amazing because it tells us, like some of my patients, we actually start with that one over the stool test because it can tell us if there's a microbiome imbalance, if there's environmental toxicity, if there's chronic infections, if there's mold, if I'm suspecting mold, or if there's a gut problem such that I think Clostridia family might be a problem. On a stool study, we will not find that bacterial overgrowth because it's what we call anaerobic. It's exposed to oxygen and it dies.
Wow.
So on a stool test, we
information.
can't find Clostridia.
Wow.
But on an organic acid test, we can find evidence of Clostridia.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, and I want to promise our viewers, because you're going to tell us about one more test and what you learned from that may be different from the other two, why you do it. But we're going to get into, I promise our viewers, we're going to talk about out-of-pocket expenses for these tests. We're going to talk about, can they be coded for insurance? How does that all work in this world? Because everybody is hitting the pocketbook these days with inflation and all that going on.
But I'm curious about this organic acid test.
Okay.
What are the differentials that come out of it? I mean, how many different organic acids are you able to see in this test? And what do the results look like?
So when you get it, I'll be honest, it's a bit confusing.
Okay.
Because you get all of these like hypuric acid and all of these names you've never heard of before, even as a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Like I've not concentrated on these names. And so learning about the organic acid test was kind of starting over.
Are there algorithms that help you in analyzing this?
Yeah, so the company has people that you can call to talk to,
cool.
and they have classes that you can learn about them, and they put it together for you. So what I try to do with patients is not confuse them too much with all of the details of the tests and the names of the organic acids, because it's confusing even for me sometimes.
Gotcha.
I still call for help.
Love your honesty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be the smartest brain.
You don't need to be. I mean, that's why these companies are adding value to what they're providing. So that's cool.
Exactly, and they have amazing support.
But you can get some detailed conclusions from this.
Absolutely.
That sounds
and it's
really cool.
How you put it together. So there's depending on the type of organic acid test, like say you order the full test, you're looking at 3 pages of organic acids.
What?
Yeah. So it really gets, and then I was talking about the Clostridia family. There are 5 or 6 organic acids that tell us if you've got a Clostridia.
So these are essentially organic acids that the Clostridium is just differentially outputting.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Right.
Yeah. So you can find an occult Clostridium infection just because there's the evidence. It has to be there.
Right. Right. And the further evidence is that when you treat it, people get better.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so
you can treat, and then if it goes away, you're good.
Right. And I have I have several patients that have autoimmune gastrointestinal issues like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or
fungal infections like that can cause so many issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if it's fungal or if it's Clostridia, I always go to or if I think it's either of those, I go to the organic acid test first. And I've had such amazing results with people just after decades of unrelenting problems getting better.
Test number 3, and then again, talking out of pocket and insurance stuff. And I want to mention briefly to our viewers, Dr. Windham is going to do something really cool. I mean, obviously, we could all sit and talk with her for hours and hours. She's going to be preparing a series of courses that are going to be online courses. So you can find out more about that at wholehumanlife.com or by calling 888-338-3408. We hope it's in the very near future that she does this. But these pearls of wisdom that we only get a few minutes to talk to her about here, she's going to be able to expound on those and give some practical knowledge there. So look for those things coming. Test number 3, Dr. Windham.
Okay, so...
Drum roll.
Yeah.
Adam, drum roll.
And I'm afraid that's going to be a little bit of a letdown here because my test number 3 is going to change based on the person.
Okay,
so,
that's fine.
That's not a letdown. That sounds like
cancer,
important
autoimmune,
wisdom.
or gut. That third test is going to change.
Okay. So mention a couple of them. And
So
why?
we could be looking for environmental toxins, which can be a very big issue for people. We might be looking for food sensitivities.
Yep.
Okay.
We might be looking for chronic infections of different types. So those would be one of those 3 would be the third.
Okay. Very good. And so what is the cost for these? Because the more I've been around integrative practitioners like you, functional medicine doctors, orthomolecular, all these terms, I've learned that you really need to be willing to pony up and pay the price for these tests because you will probably learn something by doing even one of these tests that you'll never, ever, ever learn by going to a conventional allopathic medical doctor.
Well, they don't know the utility of this.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's not in their wheelhouse.
First, let me say I may have done an injustice with my third test now that I think about it.
Oh,
okay.
Because the very first thing I do actually is extensive blood work. And so I utilize the patient's symptoms to create these ICD-10 codes. And from these ICD-10 codes, we can actually usually do a blood test that is covered by insurance.
Yay.
And goes to a regular laboratory.
Fantastic.
And we're doing lots of times the lab will draw like 12, 15, 20 vials of blood to get all of the blood that I'm requesting for them. Now, they don't need to do that, but they do it anyway.
Sure.
So that would be my top test because I can do it on anybody that has insurance. And it gets
And those
covered.
differentials are typically, they're informative.
Right. We learn so much. Like just with thyroid, I know, traditional Western, we look at a TSH. That's it for thyroid. But there's also a free T3, a free T4, reverse T3, and sometimes autoimmune testing, which is 2 more tests. So
all
that's
covered
6
by
tests
insurance,
that'll
'cause
cover
I've
by
had those
insurance to
done.
look at the thyroid. And people feel like they have thyroid problems very often do. But it's just not detected by that one test.
Yep, that's interesting.
One
That's good.
So that gets covered
Okay.
by insurance.
Okay.
Now, things like organic acids and stool studies and food sensitivity testing, lots of times these things can be partially covered if we have the right ICD-10 codes. And so, for anybody who's been there to their doctor, may have heard of these ICD-10 codes. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of them.
Wow.
But if we pick the right codes, some insurances, HMOs will not, but some PPO insurances and Medicare will partially cover these tests. So like a stool study can typically cost around $400 to $500.
Okay.
But with Medicare, I believe the cost is $79.
That's
Oh
reasonable.
my goodness,
Right.
that's
And
amazing.
even if a person is paying $300 to $400 to $500, even if they have to pay cash, I will recommend that they do these tests because we can get so much information. It can be life altering.
No question.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
No
it's
question.
the difference of, being able to go to work, to earn a living, to think clearly, to get the sleep that you need, to have functionality in your day.
To have
It's
the
priceless.
appropriate foundation of mood and appropriate reactions to your environment.
Deanna,
Absolutely.
I've thought of so many people every time we've had the privilege of interviewing you that are literally on the hamster wheel of their health, and they're doing, and I don't know if Einstein really was the originator of that quote about insanity,
Right.
the definition is doing the same thing over. And they are continuing to go back to the exact same physician, they're getting the exact same tests, and then unfortunately they're getting those medications that they had, and then they're changing those, and then they're adding new ones, and then new ones come out, and let's try this now.
Well, sometimes the medications are treating a medication symptom,
it sounds like medical roulette to me. How cool to be able to do 1 to 3 tests and learn more about your health in one. Now when I think about you, I'm going to think about you in a T-shirt that says, when people come in, or a lab coat that says, give blood. Yeah. I'm just kidding. When you mentioned 15 vials, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never only had but 6 drawn before. But anyway, again, this is Dr. D.
You haven't had enough tests drawn.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
All right. Thank you. Okay. I'll give at the office. You have been listening to Dr. Deanna Windham. Now, we've got about 4 minutes left in this segment, Adam and Dr. Windham. Where would you like to go to wrap up what we've talked about today? We've been in a lot of places, but I want to reemphasize what I think was our second segment, so it would have been a week ago. There is hope for you. Have you gotten some practical answers today from this lovely lady here that is actually going to spark something in you to say, you know what? I need to contact her, or I need to go to whoever my integrative or functional person is, and I need to say, hey, an organic acid test, the stool sample test, the third one you mentioned was
food sensitivities, toxic elements.
Yeah, environmental exposure, things like that, right? You know, okay. So here we are. 3.5 minutes. Let's go.
So I'm going to touch on something that really is going to open up a can of worms, and it's your fault.
So it's going to be so this will be the setup for the next time we have her back, setup, right?
So so Doc here called or sent me a text about 2 months ago and said, I just read a book, or I'm reading a book, and you need to take a look at this book because it's changing my thinking. And it was a book by a guy named Christopherson, Tripping Over the Truth.
We're going to talk about Warburg and some other people, maybe.
So you made the comment to me after I finished the book, and we still haven't had like a deep discussion about this, right? That your thinking has changed around cancer because the implications of that book, and folks, if there's any book that you could pick up and read this year on your plate, it is this book. It is Tripping Over the Truth by Christopherson. It goes through the history of cancer, research, all of the different paradigms of thinking that have evolved, the current kind of enclaves of genomic, dynamic thinking around cancer, and then this new paradigm, which is actually not a new paradigm, about the metabolic origins of cancer. So where are you at today with cancer?
That is a can of worms.
It is.
And we have a whopping 90 seconds for her to mention this.
So do you subscribe to the metabolic origins of cancer?
Absolutely. It just makes sense.
Okay, but define what that means. Some people don't even understand what a metabolic origin would be. So we've got to set this up.
So I'll take one test that was done where they took a cancerous cell and a healthy cell, and they took the nucleus out of the cancer cell and put it into the healthy cell cytoplasm, and they took the unhealthy nucleus out of the cancer cell and put it into the healthy cytoplasm. They switched them around.
Yep.
I think I said that right. And if in the current paradigm of thinking that cancer is a genetic disease,
right? You would think that it's going to.
You would think that the unhealthy cancer nucleus would turn the healthy cell into a cancer cell, and it does.
That's where the genes are.
Because that's where the genes are.
And the reverse was true, wasn't it?
And it actually, absolutely, the reverse. The unhealthy cancer nucleus in the healthy cell became healthy, and the healthy nucleus in the cancerous cell stayed cancerous,
right?
Which is saying that cancer originates outside of the nucleus. There's some...
And outside of the genes.
Outside of the genes, that the genes are responding to something else that's going on in the cell.
In the cell, but not in the genes.
Not in the genes, right? Because cancer people think, it's a genetic disease. And there's been trillions of dollars, literally trillions of dollars spent at targeting these genetic defects, saying if we can correct the defect, we're going to cure the disease, and it's not true.
Cancer does the same thing as autoimmune disease. You block one genetics, the body finds a way around, and it just keeps on going.
It keeps on going.
Right.
And in like 3% of the cases, it actually might make some sort of minimal benefit, but usually not.
No, this cancer patient that I was talking about that I spoke to yesterday his oncologist recommended a drug that she says will extend his life by 2 months.
Costing probably over $100,000.
Right.
Okay, you guys are going to break my heart here going down this road.
We're going to have to come back and come back and talk about this.
We do.
Yeah.
So this has been Ultra Life today. This was our last segment with Dr. Deanna Windham, Dr. Sherlock Holmes, Deanna Windham.
Oh, that's good.
And that really loves solving mysteries that patients come to her with. You've seen her humble heart today where she actually says, I learn from my patients. How refreshing is that to hear that she learns things from her patients every day? So we are all joined together. The way you can get a hold of her, which now I understand more about why your company has named this, wholehumanlife.com, WHOLE, humanlife.com. The number to call, the 800 number, 888-338-3408. Dr. Windham, we love you. We want you back soon. Adam does what he normally does. He drops like a ticking time bomb in the last 30 seconds.
You're going to have to come back pretty quickly.
And we promise we're not going to talk about this off air, so it'll be fresh and alive.
Awesome.
And we're so glad.
No, I'm not taking that promise.
Yeah, I know, right? We're so glad you came. Go get the book, Tripping Over the Truth, that Adam mentioned. I've never heard the guy recommend a book before, and I've heard him recommend this book 20 times since Dr. Windham got him on it. So thanks again for coming. I'm Josh Bellew.
Adam Payne. This has been Ultra Life Today.